The story of Saul, the first king of Israel, is a complex narrative found in the books of 1 Samuel. Saul's life began with great promise, but ended in tragedy due to his disobedience to God. Before Saul became king, Israel was led by judges and prophets, the most prominent being Samuel. However, the Israelites grew restless and demanded a king like the surrounding nations. God instructed Samuel to grant their request, though he warned them that having a king would bring challenges. Saul, a tall and handsome young man from the tribe of Benjamin, was chosen by God to be the first king. Samuel anointed him privately, and later, Saul was publicly declared king before all the tribes of Israel. Saul started his reign well. He was humble, and the Spirit of God came upon him, empowering him to lead Israel. One of Saul's early victories was against the Ammonites, who had besieged the city of Jabesh Gilead. Saul rallied the people of Israel, led them into battle, and decisively defeated the Ammonites, securing his position as king. The people rejoiced and renewed their allegiance to Saul. Saul also led Israel to military victories against other enemies, including the Philistines, establishing himself as a capable warrior king. However, Saul's early humility would soon give way to pride and disobedience. Saul's downfall began when he failed to fully obey God's commands. The first significant incident occurred when Saul was preparing for battle against the Philistines at Gilgal. Samuel had instructed Saul to wait 7 days for him to come and offer a sacrifice before the battle. But when Samuel didn't arrive on time, and Saul's troops began to scatter, Saul took matters into his own hands and offered the sacrifice himself, which was a violation of God's law. When Samuel arrived, he rebuked Saul for his impatience and disobedience, telling him that his kingdom would not endure because of his failure to trust God. The final straw came during a battle against the Amalekites. God, through Samuel, commanded Saul to utterly destroy the Amalekites and all their possessions as judgment for their sins. However, Saul spared the Amalekite king, Agag, and kept the best of the livestock, claiming he intended to offer them as sacrifices to God. When Samuel confronted him, Saul initially denied his wrongdoing, but eventually admitted his sin. Despite Saul's confession, Samuel declared that God had rejected him as king because of his disobedience. As Saul's reign continued, God chose David, a young shepherd from Bethlehem, to be the next king of Israel. Unaware of this at first, Saul invited David into his service as a musician to soothe him whenever a harmful spirit tormented him. David later became a national hero by defeating Goliath, the giant Philistine warrior, further increasing his popularity. Saul, however, grew increasingly jealous of David, fearing that David would take his throne. His jealousy turned into paranoia, and Saul made multiple attempts on David's life, forcing David to flee and live as a fugitive. Even though David had opportunities to kill Saul, he refused to harm God's anointed king, showing his respect for God's authority. In his later years, Saul became more unstable, consulting a medium to summon the spirit of Samuel when he feared losing a battle against the Philistines. Samuel's spirit prophesied Saul's downfall, predicting that he and his sons would die in battle the next day. True to the prophecy, Saul's army was defeated by the Philistines, and his sons, including Jonathan, were killed. Wounded in battle and fearing capture, Saul took his own life by falling on his sword. His tragic death marked the end of his reign and the beginning of David's. Saul's life is a story of unfulfilled promise. He had the potential to be a great king, but his lack of obedience to God and his inability to trust fully in God's plans led to his downfall. His story serves as a reminder of the importance of faith, obedience, and humility before God.